Hey, welcome back. This is tutorial 1.1 of Spatial Analysis Workbook 2. So in this chapter you are assuming the role of a GIS manager for a small Texas city, and you are responsible for creating the zoning map for city council. And since everybody is sort of like familiar with the zoning categories and the type of projects, they refer to this map a whole lot, the council members do. And so let's go ahead and open the map that we have currently, which is under GS tutorial 2 folder under maps. Just open 1.1. So once you open that, you should see something like this. So you'll see a map like this where you have the zoning districts and you have the lot boundaries, which are actually lines. So you need to create a legend so that this map becomes more readable. So although the zoning districts have been categorized by unique zoning codes, they are not actually representing the actual description. They are actually the code name. R1C is in fact single family custom built home. So you sort of need to give labels to this. So how do you do this? I'm going to right click and open attribute table, and as you can see, these are the codes that are actually used to display your zoning layer. So what we need to do is go to properties of this zoning districts layer, and then the R1C, I'm going to click on the label part of it, and I'm going to select the entire thing, and I'm going to label that to single family custom dwellings. So that was pretty easy. So what you need to do is just follow the book and label the rest of the layers, rest of the categories to represent, in page 7, you have to label all these to their respective descriptions. So once you do that, so your map should look something like this. I have given descriptions for each one of these layers. So if you have to move stuff up and down, all you need to do is click on that particular category and then move it down or move it up. So make sure your map looks pretty good in the right order, as the book says, as in page 8. That's how your map should look like, in the same order. So once you are done with that, you have to save this, save as a layer file, and then you're gonna save this in GST2, my exercises, and you're gonna save this as zoning districts layer. So once you do that, you go on and add a legend to your map, insert a legend, and then you remove everything else and only add zoning districts. Click next. I'm just gonna go with the defaults here. Okay, let's see what that looks like. That's a pretty big legend, so you really don't want this kind of a legend. You want this something clean and clear and easy to read. So what I'm going to do is right click, go to properties of the legend, and then in the items I'm going to click on zoning districts and place it into 2 different columns, and then I'm going to click on style here for a little bit. I'm going to go to the style, click on the properties, and then I'm going to change, override the default patch, which is which looks like a rectangle. I want to change that to something that looks more like a parcel, and then I'm going to click OK. Click OK. See what that looks like. Actually, that looks pretty good to me, but it's way too big, so I'm gonna change that to, I don't know, something like a Calibri font, and then I'm going to change the size from 19 to 11, maybe a little bigger, 14 perhaps. Okay, that looks good. So I'm gonna add some guidelines here so that I can snap it to the edge of the map. Even this map is not snapped to the edge, so I'm gonna do that. But even now this is not pretty clear. I'm gonna go to the properties of the legend again, and I'm gonna add a background to the frame, like a 0.5 outline with a light color, and the background is gonna be white. If you want, you can choose a different color, and I'm gonna add a gap around the background to be like around 3 points, so that it does have some buffer, like a margin sort of a thing, even within the legend. So I really don't need to call this a legend, so I'm gonna go back, and under general I'm gonna click uncheck show legend. I'm gonna click OK. So now this legend looks pretty good to me. So that's what you should be. If you want, you can add. So the book has given a specific set of sizes for the map. So the exposition apparently is 0.5, and this is 8. The width is going to be 4.5, obviously, and click apply and click OK. So now it's even a smaller legend, but that's what it says it should be. So now that's done. Also it says add in the general item, instead of the city, instead of the legend, we're gonna change that to city of Oleander. Looks like Oleander, and the symbol is going to be some kind of blue. Make it slightly bigger, click OK. So there you go. That's how you actually change, play with the categories, change the legend, and add it to the map. Resume this. I'm going to save this under save as, under my exercises, tutorial 1.1. Click on save as, and then I'm going to move on to my tutorial 1.2. I'm going to open maps, tutorial 1.2. So as part of tutorial 1.2, we need to sort of like create a simplified zoning map, because one of the developers really liked our map and he wants to actually take it to some of the potential clients. So he wants to sort of like sell the city a little more, sell the area a little more, and he doesn't want all these different categories. He wants this to be simplified. So what we need to do is group these different zonings into 4 broad categories: single family, multifamily, commercial, and industrial. So how do we do that? Right click and go to properties, and then while pressing and holding control, keep clicking the R1C, R1, R1L, R1, R1A, R2, TH, and MH. So all these actually, I'm gonna say right click and say group values. I'm gonna group them, and then R3, R4, R5 become one multifamily residential. So I'm gonna group those values, and then C1, C2, TX10, TX121 are commercial zones. So I'm gonna right click and click on group values, and then the L1, I1 and I2 are actually group value, those become industrial zones. So, and then what we need to do is click on apply and click OK. Now you can see that all these have been, sort of like collapsed into 4 broad categories, but the labels are way too big, so we need to sort of like relabel them. I'm going to click on right click and go to properties, and also we need to perhaps recolor them to some extent. Maybe not. If you want, we can do that. What we need to do is definitely label them. I'm going to click on the label for the first category, which is the single family residential, and then this the second is multi-family residential, and third is commercial, and the fourth one is industrial. So I relabeled all of those, and I'm gonna click OK. So now this becomes a much easier legend to actually deal with. So I want to change this commercial to slightly a reddish color, and then I want to keep the industrial the same way, and I want to save this as a layer file, but I want to save this as grouped zoning districts. And then I'm going to modify the legend, because since this is a smaller legend, this doesn't need to be in 2 different columns. I'm going to go back to items, click on legend. I'm going to place this in just 1 column, click apply, click OK, and then I'm going to move this to the end of the map. If you want, you can move it here, and then click on a whole page to actually look at the entire map. So that's how you actually group different categories, and then you actually create your simplified map and simplified legends. So that's tutorial 1.2. So let's get started with tutorial 1.3. This is a tutorial where we are trying to limit values to display, where we are trying to create a sort of like an inventory map for residential zoning. So what we are trying to do is just add residential zoning and remove the rest of the values. So there are like 3 or 4 ways to do this, but we'll see a couple of them. So one way to do it is actually going to zoning districts, go to properties, and then go to symbology, and then click on categories, and then select code, and here I'm going to check all other values, check off all other values, and click on add values. So here I don't need all the values, I only need a few. So I'm going to click on the following values, which is MH, R1, R1A, R1, and R2, and then I'm going to click on TH, click OK. So once I did that, I need to change these colors to medium yellow, tan, beige, orange, and light orange. So you essentially like R1 MH is actually yellow, R1 is medium yellow, R1A is tan, R1L is beige, R2 is orange, and TH actually is light orange. So once you pick those, make sure they are in the same order as the map, and then I'm gonna click apply. And as you can see here, we are only showing 56, but there are 232 other districts we are sort of like ignoring or not adding to the unique values categories right now. So I'm going to click on OK. So that's the map we want. But let's examine the attribute table here. What happened to the attribute table? Did anything change because of the selections we just made? Let's look at all the codes. Looks like we have PD, I1, I2, everything else is still here, which means we still have 288. The total is still 288. So we are not eliminating any of the others. We are just selecting the ones we want. So if you want to do it a different way, we can do it using a definition query. So I'm gonna click on copy, right click and click on copy and click on paste layer. So now I have two layers. What I'm going to do is right click, go to properties, and I'm going to click on features and click OK. So now I'm back to where I started, right? So that's the layer we just created, and this is the other one. So what I'm going to do here is go to properties, and I'm going to go for the new layer. I'm going to go to the definition query tab, and here I'm going to say click on query builder, and for the code I'm gonna create a definition query where I just want to display the districts that I want. So I'm gonna double click on code, I'm gonna click on is equal to, I'm gonna click on get unique values. So I know I want MH. Okay, so let's see what happens when I actually I want R1 and R2. So I'm going to clear this MH, delete that. I'm scroll one to R1. I'm going to write the same code again, and I'm going to use the AND operator, and I'm going to double click on code, and I'm going to click on is equal to R1 and R2. Let's see what happens here. So if I do that, do I see any of the records being shown in the attribute table? Because the definition query itself, even though it's the right query, even though the syntax is good, what you are saying is code is equal to R and code is equal to R2. What you are asking is to find something which has both the codes, which is not true. What we are looking for is an OR operator between these two, where you want a code of R1 or R2. So I'm going to click on verify, click OK, and let's take a look at the attribute table now. So all we have is R1s and R2s. So similarly, what we're going to do is we're gonna write a definition that will look like the book. So something like this: code is equal to R1 or code is equal to R1A, R1L, R2, TH, and MH. And I'll click on OK. So now I got all my residential codes. So we could have so easily applied this to the zoning districts, or if we started with this definition query, we could have just said add all values here. Select code for our value field, and then click on add all values, and actually created our sort of our what do you call our zoning map or zoning zoning values based on this. So here, since I already created or used all the colors, I already have a symbology set up in a different layer. So I'm going to click on import, and I'm going to use the existing zoning districts, and I'm going to import the entire symbology, and then click OK. So again, I'm just importing what I've already done. So if you go to the properties of this layer and go to definition query, there is a definition query, and if you go to the attribute table, and the codes are you only have the 56 records versus 288 records in the other layer. So you see the difference between using a definition query and not using the definition query. So anyways, that's how you actually do this. So that's the end of 1-3. So what you need to submit is what to turn in exercise 1-1, exercise 1-2, and exercise 1-3, all three of them, and submit them on Blackboard. Thank you.